Hello guys, gals, and NBs. Let's make a little micro project in TOUCHDESIGNER. And as a challenge, let's just try to use one operator today, although it's not necessarily the best way to do it. Let's call this visual something like fractal domain warping. That sounds cool. We will look at how to make our own fractal noise, and how to modify it in a way that is only possible in GLSL, or would be very cumbersome in regular tops. But everything you need to make the project you can see on screen right now. But let's go through it step by step. Let's start by dropping down the only operator we will use. A GLSL top. Let's set our resolution. I'm using 1920 by 1080. 8-bit fixed. And let's create our uniforms under the Vectors tab. One called U_aspect. One called U_time. U_transform. And a last one called U_rot. I'm going to drag and drop the resolution into the aspect, and divide the height by the width to get the aspect ratio. In U_time, let's type in abs time.seconds. Okay, let's split the screen and jump into the shader code. Let's start with some setup. First we are going to create a 2D vector holding our coordinates. Let's call it UV. And we can use the built-in vuv.xy from TOUCHDESIGNER. And let's initialize a vec3 called kernel. And let's put that call in our red, green, and blue output. And let's just look at our UV. We subtract 0.5 to center it. And multiply the X component by the aspect to aspect correct it. Oops, we haven't declared our uniforms, so let's do that. Aspect is a float, so is time and rotation. Our transform is a vec3. Okay, let's declare a three-dimensional coordinate called P and use UV, and 0.0. And then we subtract the transform from the P. And let's declare a variable called n where we will store our noise like this. And look at it in the kernel. But oh no, we don't have a noise function. Let's make one. It's a float that needs a vec3 named p. And TouchDesigner already has a built-in noise that we can use like this. And then we can change the period here. Let's turn this noise into a fractal noise. We create another function called FBM. It also needs a vec3. And let's set this up similar to the way we are used to seeing a noise top in TouchDesigner. A constant float we call harmonic gain that we set to 0.7. Another one we call harmonic spread, let's set it to 2. A constant integer we call harmonics, let's set it to 6. A float called weight, we set it to 1. A float named frequency we set to 1. A float named n that we set to 0. Let's return the n, which right now is equal to 0. And in the n in our main, let's make sure we are calling the FBM function. Let's do a loop. An increment counter that keeps incrementing as long as its value is less than the amount of harmonics. Each increment, we will add a layer of noise to the n. The period of the noise is set by the frequency. And the amplitude is set by the weight. We also multiply the weight by the harmonic gain, so its amplitude decreases each layer. And then frequency is multiplied by the harmonic spread, so it gets smaller and smaller. And now we have a fractal noise similar to what we are used to in TouchDesigner. And in order to create less regularity, we can do a hacky thing here. And just add a large number multiplied by our increment counter. In order to chuck the noise around a little each layer. Okay, let's add the simplest little line to iteratively domain warp this noise. At the end, we take the domain, p, and add the noise to it. So quick, so cool. Maybe attenuate that a bit to avoid aliasing. We can also swizzle the position, to add more variation. And we can move this visual around with our transform uniform. Let's bring it into visible range. By multiplying by 0.5 and adding 0.5, you can think of this as amplitude and offset. In the transform, let's create a little expression like this on screen. So it transforms in a circle. Let's for fun also add some rotation to this. Let's first add some abs time into our rotation uniform. We will need a rotation matrix. It looks like this. We need an angle, and then the sine and cosine of that angle. And the matrix looks like this. And then we can multiply the UV by that rotation matrix. Obviously after we've aspect corrected. Okay, let's add some warping to this too. Here, before we start transforming the positions. Let's multiply the p by 1, minus the length of the UV, which describes a circular ramp. And then we can take the sin of that and animate it by the time uniform, like this, to add some undulation. Fun. Let's just change the colors up a bit. If we take the exponential of the negative noise and multiply that a little, we can get some nice shading in here. Let's also add an edge here with the width function. And add that to the red channel. Fun, the rest is just tweaking. Have fun with this. And I hope this gives you some inspo for creating minimal TouchDesigner project. I've absolutely had some fun trying to create little micro projects. Cheers, smiley face,